I'm Steve. I'm a 4-month-old kitten. Subscribe to this vlog so this guy will put me down. Please help me. Look at me. I'm being blatantly used to shill a vlog. Hello and welcome. It is me and Steve the kitten on a blustery Monday morning here from Site B. It's about 7:30 in the morning. It's the 12th day of September heat wave 2022. It's about 70 degrees and sunny, and it's going to get hotter. And it's Monday, and my face is a mess. Why? Because it's hot, and I have a cat that wants to sleep on my head in the dark. So, yeah. Anyways, it's time for the tabletop role-playing game news, and at the top story, if you haven't heard this yet, Wizards of the Coast and our friend Justin Lanasa and TSR 3.5 are going at it again. There's another lawsuit that's been filed in the District of Washington Court. This is TSR versus Wizards of the Coast. It was filed on September. Oh no, it was filed on recently. What does notice for consideration September 30th, 2022 mean? Because that hasn't happened yet. So, but I know it was filed recently. So to break this down before we get to all the legalese stuff, there is a product called Star Frontiers. Star Frontiers was an outer space fantasy type thing. It had aliens and spaceships, and it's maybe where the space monkeys originally came from, because there was a winged monkey-like race in Star Frontiers. Star Frontiers was made by TSR. Wizards of the Coast, as we know, currently owns on everything that TSR may or may not have made. TSR 3.5, owned by Justin Lanasa, claimed that, no, we own Star Frontiers. And for the past several years, TSR 3.5 and the Dungeon Hobby Shop and Justin Lanasa have been claiming that they're going to put Star Frontiers out again. But Wizards of the Coast says they own it. So now Wizards of the Coast is suing Justin Lanasa, Dungeon Hobby Shop, TSR 3.5, because supposedly there are insensitive, problematic imagery in Star Frontiers, the one that TSR 3.5 is making that nobody's seen. And Wizards of the Coast does not want to be associated with the racist and transphobic, homophobic imagery and wording in Star Frontiers 3.5, which TSR claims they own and which Wizards of the Coast they own. But they don't want anybody to mistake Star Frontiers that's coming out from TSR for their Star Frontiers, which is never going to be made, because they don't want the imagery in the Star Frontiers. Are you confused yet? Okay, good. So let's get a little simpler here. And there's already a conspiracy thing floating around about why Wizards of the Coast put the space monkeys in Spelljammer, because they kind of look like the space monkeys from Star Frontiers, and if they put the imagery out first, TSR 3.5 can't use it, even though TSR 3.5 has been claiming that Star Frontiers is out, made, available, though no one's actually seen it, and nobody knows where the money went that they invested into Star Frontiers 3.5. So they're going to court over a product that nobody has seen or may not exist. This kind of reminds me of the Monty Python cheese sketch. I kind of, picture the judge going, do either of you actually have a copy of this game, Star Frontiers, in print? Mind you, if you say no, I will shoot you. And they're both going to say, no. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you're arguing over something that supposedly doesn't even exist, but TSR, Wizards of the Coast, doesn't want to be associated with the imagery in the product that supposedly has been made, even though mostly everybody agrees it doesn't actually exist, that TSR 3.5, even though Wizards of the Coast technically may or may not own Star Frontiers, and yeah. All right, let's take a break. Okay, other news. I'm sure there's something else going on in the world of gaming. Let's take a look. Is there anything else going on in the world of gaming that does not have to do with our friends at Wizards of the Coast? Apparently, there is some criticism against more criticism against Spelljammer because of not only the Space Monkeys, but now some of the other things. So there's another round of criticism and complaints and stuff like that about Spelljammer, and Wizards of the Coast has released another apology. And of course, they're still trying to blame the offensive. God, my brain is not working today. Blame the offensive imagery on previous Spelljammer. And they're saying, well, this was what it was like 30 years ago, so all we did was take what we did 30 years ago and put it into current Spelljammer. Except, of course, the problem with that defense is the stuff that they put in Spelljammer 2022 is not in the older stuff. They wrote all the stuff that people are upset about. That, if you look at the older stuff, it's not there. There was somebody told me that there was not a cultural consultant used in Spelljammer. I got in a big fight with somebody who said, "Oh no, if you look at the credits, Wizards of the Coast didn't use a cultural consultant." Well, part of the apology is that they did in fact use a cultural consultant. They just forgot to give the cultural consultant credit. This happened to them in 2021 with Curriculum of Chaos Strixhaven, and in 2020 with the updated information on Visani, Drow, and Orcs, and all the other quote-unquote problematic races. They forgot to give the cultural consultant credit in Strixhaven. They forgot to give the cultural consultant credit in Spelljammer, and they forgot to give the cultural consultant credit in the stuff that they put out in 2020 on the blog and on Unearthed Arcana. So I don't know if it's the same cultural consultant that they just keep forgetting or different cultural consultants, but somehow they forgot to put the cultural consultant in the credits for Spelljammer, and because, at least that's what I'm reading. I don't know if that's true. I was told there is no cultural consultant mentioned. I haven't seen a copy of Spelljammer to confirm or deny that. I would find it strange that they wouldn't have used a cultural consultant, or at least claim they did on Spelljammer, because that's their big thing and has big, that they're using cultural consultants now to make sure things like Space Monkeys don't show up. So there may have been a cultural consultant, and they may not have just given them credit. I guess that's their defense for how the stuff snuck by the editors. No, that's not. Yeah, no, that's not a defense. Their defense is, this is what it was like when Spelljammer first came out. We just cut and pasted, and then somehow our editors missed multiple paragraphs that could have been considered problematic, except, of course, if you go back and look at the earlier stuff from Spelljammer first printing, the things aren't there. The things that they're saying they cut and pasted that we're all complaining about, like Space Monkeys, that's not actually there. They're completely different. Exhausted yet? Let's move on. Okay, yes, TSR 3.5, in addition to, we mentioned this one earlier, TSR 3.5, in addition to the latest round of lawsuits between Wizards of the Coast and TSR 3.5 that we just talked about, TSR 3.5 is in trouble again for a completely different reason. Oh, yes, Justin Lanasa has been accused of improper storage and transmission of private customer financial data. As we talked about this last week, that apparently Lanasa has a whole bunch of financial data for people that have donated money to him and Dungeon Hobby Shop and made purchases and whatever. And mistakenly, somehow he sent a PDF Excel sheet out to other people that has all this information on it, and it was not encrypted or protected or anything. And so basically, if you have ever given financial information of any kind, whether it be address, phone number, credit card number, to Hobby Shop Dungeon or Justin Lanasa. That information is now floating out there because Lanasa just kept it on an Excel sheet without any protection. So I double check your your FICO rating and stuff like that. Yeah, no, Lanasa, you can't win, can you? Do? We announced that there was a Monty Python role-playing game coming out called Coquelicular Medieval Reenactment Program from the people over at Exalted Funeral. And what we do not know is whether anybody from Monty Python actually has anything to do with this product or not. There's no mention of them. And I'm pretty sure that at least John Cleese and Eric Idle are still alive. I didn't know Monty Python was public domain. I'm pretty sure, they still have control over it, but I guess whether they were consulted or not, I don't know. There is coming a digital adaptation of Munchkin, including a RPG parody of Munchkin. No, I'm reading this wrong. They're just doing a digital Munchkin version. So think of it as like Magic the Gathering, but it's Munchkin. So they'll have the cards, they'll have a digital thing. You'll play Munchkin, and then you're going to have to buy the expansion packs if you want to get all the good stuff in your Munchkin. And then if you're not familiar with Munchkin, it is a long-running parody card game, non-collectible, with stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of cards. Full of in-jokes that you would have to, play the actual games to understand it. A lot of the jokes are about second edition. A lot of the jokes are about other games. Anyways, like that. So now they're doing a digital version. With Munchkin currently owned by Steve Jackson Games. But Direwolf Digital is the one who are making the digital Munchkin. Paizo founder and former CEO Lisa Stevens has officially retired from the adventure game industry. So you're never going to play D&D or any other game again, or you're just not working for Paizo anymore, lady? She will still retain ownership, but has retired from active operations over at Paizo. So I guess she's retiring from the board or whatever to just play games and write and, I don't know, get herself out of any possible Paizo controversy Paizo might be getting itself into. Good on you, Lisa. Get out while you've got the money and you're young still. Go just play some games, enjoy your time, see the world, raise some chickens or whatever else that you need to do. But yeah, get out. You've made your money, you've made your mark, you gave us Pathfinder, thank you very much. And now you're bailing before any, controversy. So good on you, lady. Enjoy your retirement. Speaking of CEOs and promotion, Kickstarter has promoted somebody. John Ritter Roderick is now the director of games, and Nicole Amato is the game outreach lead. So there's new people in charge of Kickstarter. Does anybody care? No, I don't care. But it's news. Anything else going on? No, so I guess the big news is TSR 3.5 getting itself in trouble in not one, but two different branches of the law. One with Wizards of the Coast suing them yet again. I have lost track as to who sued who first. I think TSR 3.5 sued Wizards of the Coast first, but I could be wrong. Maybe Wizards of the Coast. Anyways, they have been going back and forth legally for at least a year, if not longer. In at least two different states. So, yeah. And as far as I know, nothing's come out of it. If I was Mr. Lanasa, I would be more worried about any accusations and lawsuits brought up against him for making public the financial information of multiple individuals. And I'm not just talking like credit card numbers. I'm talking credit card numbers, addresses, phone numbers, names, social security numbers. If you gave Lanasa anything at any point in time that had your personal information on it, it's been released. It's out there. He kept it on an Excel file. I mean, I'm a computer idiot, and even I don't do that. Yeah. So let's do some damage control news. The increasingly diminishing shallow end of the 5e pool continues to try and stay relevant by making ridiculous claims, including the very disturbing and disgusting claims they made last week about how the death of Queen Elizabeth was going to affect Dungeons and Dragons. What's going to happen to Queen Elizabeth's prized corgis and how that affects Dungeons and Dragons. Again, disgusting. There was another one they made about cats and killing cats and how that affected Dungeons and Dragons. And Fortnite is now officially a Dungeons and Dragons canon, and Aria Grande is now officially a Dungeons and Dragons canon. And just, I mean, it was an ugly week for the shallow end of the D5e pool. And I know you guys are trying to remain relevant as your population gets smaller and smaller, but, you know, using the death of the queen to somehow connect that to D&D was really sick. Claiming that the fate of Queen Elizabeth's various dogs is going to be affected by D&D and going to affect D&D. Well, in case you were wondering, Queen Elizabeth's dogs are going to be taken care of. There's, money that's been set aside. They'll retire. Some of them will go to the various members of the family. The thing about the cats, I don't know where that even came from. And talking about how 5e D&D and cruelty to cats, that was just sick. I'm not even going to touch that one. But they're still out there. They're still making these disgusting posts. So that's news. It's disturbing that these people associate horrible, tragedies and cruelties to Dungeons and Dragons. Well, that's it for the news. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you don't appreciate this content, let me know. Please subscribe. Steve the Cat wants you to subscribe. Help me hit 1,000 subs, please. Until then, I'm going to keep using the kitten to shill my vlog. I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate this content, comment down below, like, share, subscribe, support, and stay hydrated. It's going to be another hot one.